Hi, I'm Beau Humphreys, and this is the Personal Finance Show. This is my weekly COVID-19 series. This is the episode 5 of that. I came out of sabbatical, if you want to call it that, podcast sabbatical. Made 100 shows, and then I was like, I'm going to be a stay-at-home dad for a little bit, and no time for podcasting for me there. I got a full-time job as an insolvency counselor because I have a kid and I have a wife who's in medical school. So it was time to make some money again, but it was a great opportunity to be able to help people too. So that all came together nicely, but it meant putting a hold on the podcast for a bit. But this pandemic has kind of brought me, it made me want to come back and talk to people, to connect with people, in different parts of the world. I want to be able to, provide information to give people connection while also giving them information and using this platform that I have that some people are subscribed to, some not tons, but some people. I'm getting some downloads, which is nice, and so that we can just give more information and connect the world. That's really the idea here. And so I'm trying to have different people from different parts of the world. Now this one, Tom Drake, he just happens to be in my part of the world, but in another province, which is kind of like a different world. It's pretty far away, almost a country away, right? So welcome, Tom. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on, and I'm glad you're back to podcasting. As I think you know, I tell quite a few people that they should be listening to you and having you on as guests and stuff like that. So it's nice to see you back.
Well, I appreciate that, and because what I really want to do is just tell people stories, right? It's there's a whole lot of different ways to do podcasting. You talk about topics, right? A lot of people solo podcasts and just talk about the events of the day. Normally I don't do, current stuff. It's usually evergreen stuff, but this is really like an opportunity to just talk about this pandemic, the COVID-19, while we're in it. It's not something that is going to be really relevant in a bit from now. So this is like I'm putting it in the special bonus section on the podcast. Not labeling it as any episode number or anything. Just sort of weekly updates, and doing it sort of unedited and live, publishing it on the day. I might edit us a little bit, but since you're a professional podcaster as well, Tom, I might not have to do much editing, right?
I'll put all the pressure on me now.
Just watch all of your
yeah,
and the pauses that I'm doing right now. So the idea here is I want to know about your personal experience with COVID-19 since it started, and then just kind of what's happening in your region, and then of course the Personal Finance Show, how this whole thing has affected your finances, your community, the finances of people around you, and how you're managing. Or anybody that you know who's been having trouble. We could talk about the Canadian benefits a little bit. There's so many, but just in general, just to remind people of what's out there too. But let's start with your story. How have you been affected, and did you have to work from home? Where did it start for you?
So I think it really started for me sort of the weekend of March 13th to 15th. That was kind of where
that one.
Yeah, kind of watching stuff for those first couple of weeks of March, and you're seeing these news reports, everything between it's not a big deal. Oh, maybe it's starting to be a big deal, and different announcements.
Just the flu.
Yeah,
right?
it was very confusing. Where we were getting kind of these different reports and how serious to take it, and so on the 15th, we had a birthday party for our youngest child at a movie theater, which was already one of the places that was getting a little bit of flack. Like they said,
seems like a science fiction movie now that you're talking about in a movie theater with people.
Yeah, well, not many. They Cineplex had come out, said that they were reducing seating to 50%. They were doing every second row. They were already taking steps. That they had staff doing extra cleaning. Now, when I got there, I realized they made those announcements, but really it was just a result of things. they didn't need to do every second row because no one was there. And because no one was there, why wouldn't you have your employees do extra cleaning? So it didn't seem like they actually went that far out of their way to do the social distancing.
Okay.
But we were kind of, in the days leading up to that, we're like, well, should we cancel this party? But at the time, school was still going, and we're like, well, if these kids can meet for school, then we can meet at a movie theater. And even then, we brought, especially my wife, I should give her credit for this, brought Lysol wipes and everything like that, and kind of wiped all the kids' chairs before they sat down, just to give it that extra little, for sure that they are all good. And like we bought their snacks, but we bought them all at once and took them there for them and stuff. Just tried to keep the kids as in a bubble as we could. So that was already getting a little strange. There was one other couple in there. So there was our row of kids, and then at the very very back of the theater there was a couple. Okay. That was it for the entire movie on a weekend in the middle of the day. And so we got through that, and that same day, they had been saying, well, school's not going to get canceled and all this. And that same day, once we got home, they announced that school in Alberta was closed to the end of the year. So
really, at that point, they decided till the end of the school year.
They went straight for that, where other provinces were saying things like, well, we're going to close it for two weeks and see how it goes. But when Alberta closed, they went from nothing and literally having a meeting about it one day before, and then the next day, we're going to close it to the end of the year. And so that made us suddenly take it really seriously, like to just that shock of like, oh, this is a thing. Like, this isn't some one or 2 week problem. This is probably going to go through till the summer.
So you knew that right off the bat. This is still, I don't think we even know this in Ontario yet.
Yeah, well, most
they haven't decided.
Most things have always been
up in the air, 2 weeks at a time.
Yeah. Well, all the way up to federal. It's like, well, we're just gonna do this, and then we're gonna do that, and see where we end up. But ours said right to the end of the year. Now, they're running out of time, so it'll probably stay that way. But if people do start pulling off of stuff, maybe they could change their mind. I don't know. But at the time, that's how they announced it. So we went from in a public party with a bunch of kids to like, oh, well, this is pretty serious. Maybe we should just lock it down. Like, because the kids going to school is kind of the only thing that was still keeping us feeling normal and out in public. My wife stays home. I work from home most of the time. So it was kind of once the kids had to stay home, then, well, okay, we have no reason to go out. We might as well just lock ourselves up for a few weeks and then see how that goes.
So you were already working from home all the time, or the majority of time?
Almost all the time.
When would you go in?
Like once every second week or so, just to touch base with some of the people that are local in my office here. For my day job, but my whole direct department is actually way out in Nova Scotia. So there was never really a huge need for me to go to the office here in Calgary. There's other people there that I can talk to in related departments, but it was never a huge benefit to go into the office. So I was working from home most of the time anyway.
So like barely, like no transition basically for you in terms of adjusting to home life. And this is your like corporate job, right?
Yeah, financial analyst. So it's all on the computer, and with my other people in my department being 3 hours away, they're doing it all at home made more sense most of the time. You
can set different hours if you need to as well, if it's like you need to start later or however you have it set up. But there's the flexibility, which we're all experiencing now. Like I do a couple of counselings after hours now on a Saturday afternoon if I need to, if people can't make a 9 to 5 because they're essential workers or they're busy, right? Mm-hmm. So working from home has different advantages. You're already used to that. Your wife's working from home, but the kids weren't in your face all the time, right?
Yeah. So where things started to get strange though. So this would be, let me see if I get my dates right. The 16th of March, we're like, okay, we're going to lock it up and stay home. But by the 20th, the Friday of that same week, I started to get a sore throat, and we're like, oh, did I get sick?
Oh, no.
So I kind of went half that day with a bit of a sore throat. I'm like, well, this isn't a big deal. And then I thought, well, we've got a guest room in the basement. So I said, why don't I just stay downstairs that night and see how I feel tomorrow? I didn't want to be breathing in my wife's face or anything. So like, we'll just go downstairs and see how it goes for a night. And that turned into a couple nights. And we're like, okay, this might be something. So
how are you feeling at this point?
At this point, totally fine.
Okay.
But the weird thing was the news I was watching, again, with not getting all the information at the time, was there was a set amount of symptoms. It was sort of, well, you have to have a sore throat, you have to have a really high fever. There was a lot of talk about your fever at the time, and so as I was going on, I was downstairs maybe a week at this point, and then they started to change some of that, and it was like, oh, well, you might just have a runny nose, or you're fine to not have a fever. And nowadays they're even saying you don't even have to have symptoms, but at that point, right? It wasn't quite.
It varies so much. The test is the only thing that tells you, right?
Yeah. So on the 24th, a couple things happened. One, I found out that someone in my office did test positive. And I had been in the office once just before we locked up.
One time.
Yeah. So between that and between the movie theater, like, did I really pick it up? Like, I never go outside. How did I pick this up?
It's, of course, yeah. And that's, I mean, just to interrupt you for a second, that's a really good example of, like, I only went to the grocery store once every 2 weeks, but if you were in somebody's face, like, it could be that easy. A lot of people are not going to pick it up if they walk down the street, but somebody could. And you just, it's a reason to be vigilant and that kind of thing. But yeah, so sorry, please continue.
No, it's all good. And you got it exactly right. Like, it's not how often you go out. It's that one time and you slip up.
That one time.
And I'm terrible at touching my face. I've got a beard, so I'll rub it a lot. And
we're all terrible at this. We're changing all that, though, right?
Yeah. So on that day, on the 24th, I called 811 here. I assume that's the same provincial number. Is that the same for you? That we have an 811?
I don't know. I haven't looked into it. Is that new for COVID?
For us, no. For us, that's just sort of our health line. Like, you can for non-emergencies, you can dial 811.
I got to look into this in Ontario. I don't really have a lot of medical, non-medical emergencies.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, but they're not urgent, but they're medical.
You go all the way where you just 911.
I usually do nothing, but yeah, I should know that. Yeah. Okay, good. I'm gonna look into that. So back to you, Tom.
When I called them, they took my symptoms. They still weren't too sure, but when I said I was in the same place, touching the same doors as someone that was positive, they got a little more interested. And then they said, well, okay, we'll set you up for testing. The testing team will get back to you, but it'll take several days. They were right, because it took about 5 days. And
5 days.
And then I got a call. We have some testing time today. Can you do? I think it was 12:30. They were calling me in the morning, and yeah, okay. So for the first time in what was it, a week and a half or so, I got to go outside. So I drove the car. My wife gave me the Lysol wipes, so when I was done with the car, I could kind of wipe it down, so she could go back to using it. So I did the test where they stick it to the back of your head, like it's if you find one of those sort of side cutaways of someone's head, what it looks like when they put this thing in is it doesn't just go in your nose. It's like they push it once and then they push it again. Like, it's like they find the little curve and go a little
it
further.
Goes into your brain. That's what the cutaway looks like. It's like that. No, that's too long to go into my face. I'm sorry.
Yeah. But it's like 2/3 into your head.
What is it? It feels really uncomfortable?
Yes, it felt uncomfortable, but I hadn't seen a cutaway like that before, so I didn't realize just how far it was going. And then I saw when they pulled the stick out, just how long the stick was, and I didn't know that was all inside me. But
wow,
apparently.
Yeah, I mean, we don't normally don't have to go through something like this, right? So, it's not the worst thing that can happen to your face, right? But it's shocking a little bit, right?
Yeah. So at that point, they said it, and the news was saying it was about 4 days for test results. So I figured 4 days after the 29th, I should have my results. Nothing came. So on April 4th, I called again to this 811 line, which doesn't have access to the information. So that's part of the problem. You call them, and all they could really say is, okay, we'll take your information. Someone will call you. No one did. So 4 more days on April 8th, I called, and again, she was a little more apologetic. She's like, all I can do is take your information. We can't see this information. She said, I would suggest that you call every day and start finding out what's happening here.
Sure. Okay.
And then she also suggested to sign up for My Alberta, which here is where you can kind of get your health records. There's My Alberta, and then you go into the section called My Health. So she said, sign up for that, and you'll be able to see your records there. So I thought that was great. But when I got off the call with her, I went to sign up and went through the whole process. Then it says, okay, well, we need to verify it's you because these are health records. So we're going to send you a code by mail, and it'll take up to 10 days. so that was
like the CRMI account.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you need that verification first. So for anybody,
take up to 10 days. Is that what you said?
Yeah, exactly. Up to 10 days. No. But so for anybody in Alberta, or if there's a similar provincial thing, just health records in general in any of these provinces, sign up now. So that when you need those results like that, you've already got that account. Don't wait till you're me. So the next day,
look for that wherever you live. Yeah, just like these are the things we need to have just set up. And if you think, oh, I'll never need that, well, this is when you need it, right?
Yeah, it's amazing. Like here in Alberta, it's amazing all the stuff they had. Like I don't really have much of a medical history, but I could see like all the years I got flu shots. Like that's actually recorded in there too. So it goes back. It's not just when you set up the account or anything.
We have it for public health for vaccination. So maybe that's the similar thing. But like, does it have other things like appointments and things, or is it mostly for immunization stuff?
I think it's health records. How deep that goes, I don't know. But I don't think it goes into appointments. But I think it's sort of like testing results and stuff like that.
Sure. Okay. That's really good to have. Yeah. So, but obviously you didn't get access to that.
That wasn't helping. So on April 9th, the next day I called, and I recorded this call because I kind of wanted to see what was going on. If I got told again. I'm already waiting for 3 calls at this point, the original one and 2 callbacks. Nothing happened. So when I called, this guy, he kind of just gave up. He's like, he said, we don't have your result. Like, we can't see your results. How long have you, when did you first get sick, and how long have you been symptom free? At that point, when I first got sick was like 2 weeks before, and I was symptom free for 5 days. Sure. And he's like, okay, well, you could go back upstairs, because I've been staying in the basement, staying away from my family. Technically, when I got my test, it said you can't leave the house. They can't truly tell you to stay away from other people. Like, what if you're a family in a 1-bedroom apartment or something like that, like with 1 bathroom? Like there would be people that have to be together. I was
a tough one.
Yeah, I was spoiled enough where I've got a guest room in my office and a bathroom and everything in the basement. I could kind of give myself my own little suite.
There's all these things about, hey, isolate yourself in your second bathroom and the other bedroom, and it speaks to so much privilege, right? Yes. It's like the majority of people don't have 2 bathrooms, and like, oh yeah, sure, I'll just use my guest bedroom right in my bachelor apartment. Like, so that's a really interesting way that they were positioning it. I think maybe that was a U.S. Public service announcement or something like that, or maybe I think maybe it was like from some of the politicians, right?
Yeah,
sometimes they're out of touch, but I mean, you did have this, so there we go, right? They knew they were talking to you.
Yeah, well, at first they were. I told them, but they were pretty good about it at first. Actually, they're like, well, if you need to share a bathroom with someone, wipe it down, all that kind of stuff.
Okay, so they have tips for that.
But yeah,
so you're free to go at this point.
Yeah, he kind of just gave up, and that's why I'm glad I recorded it, because I didn't want to be on the news like airdrie man doesn't wait for test results and gets his whole family sick.
Right? Yeah, because you would obviously be blamed if everybody else in the
and obviously I don't want to get them sick, but I'm thinking beyond that. I'm like, oh gee, like I literally have this piece of paper that says you've been tested. Don't go anywhere until you get your test results.
Yeah, I mean, they're covering themselves for liability too, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess it was a good call for you to do that. You seem fine now, of course.
Yeah. Well, there's still one more final thing to this.
Yeah. Oh, story.
Okay. So April 9th, I've been free enough that I can go upstairs, but I'm still not really supposed to leave the house much. Like anyone really. So I finally get that piece of paper where I can check my health results because I still don't have my results. And this is April 16th already. Yeah. Okay. Almost 4 weeks after I first called. Wow. And
so like 10 days ago today, like 10 days ago.
Yeah.
This is the 26th today.
Yeah. So I get this piece of paper. I'm like, okay, great. I'm going to verify myself. I'm going to check my health records. I log in and verify it. And then there's some maintenance error popping up. And it was like that for 24 hours at least.
Okay.
And so I tweeted that out. I tweeted the Alberta health here and with the image, I'm like, come on. I've been waiting this long. Yeah. I finally get this option where I'm going to finally see my records. And there's this sort of nondescript error that is popping up. So someone called me from Alberta Health, and they finally said I was negative. so there was no positive
did they see your
result.
tweet? Did they?
Yeah, they saw the tweet and then did a DM and called me.
Twitter works.
So, and I did fall through the cracks. They and I wish I recorded that call, but they called me, so I wasn't prepared. But they said that they had to go back to the lab to get the results. So it wasn't sitting in my health records. They had to go back to the lab. Now, it's not that the lab didn't have the records. At least they had them there. But for whatever reason, my results did not go from the lab to my health records, and they had to chase it back. Oh boy, which is interesting. Like if I had been positive, that would have been a lot more risky. Like being told I can head out. And
it just speaks to, if this happened to you and you're doing so much diligence to follow up and to call and tweet, what, like, is this an example of what might be happening? Are they losing this or that? It's hard to know, right? Or were you an anomaly, or were you, are they just overwhelmed, or, what's happening, right?
Yeah, I'm really not sure. Like, I'm the only one I've heard about, so maybe just my luck, but it to take basically a whole month from beginning to end, from when I first got sick to actually seeing it was negative. And I still wonder though, because you hear all this stuff in the media about negative result or false negatives, and also false positives. It's going both directions. Just bad testing maybe. I still wonder, even with a negative result, I was sick for about a good 2 solid weeks, and that's not normal for me. If I get a flu or something like that, it's like a day or two, right? And then you're back.
Like, it wasn't like, our friend Paula, she had some pretty bad stuff. It wasn't like Paula, but it wasn't normal.
And my symptoms were never as bad as hers. I never had a fever. Out of the list of 6 to 8 things or whatever, the fever was the only thing I never had. So, but nowadays they say you don't need that. So it's hard to tell, but it's concerning. In a way, at this point, it doesn't matter. I almost wished it was positive, just so I would have felt a little more protected. But even now they're saying like, oh, maybe people can get sick twice. so maybe it wouldn't have mattered anyways. But
guarantee immunity. There's nothing guaranteed there, which is one of the things that people probably assumed you get it once and you're done. But if that's not the case with this, then it changes a lot of things in people's minds, right? Like, because that concept of I don't know which countries started to do it, but like, let's just put it out there, and then whoever gets it, and then we get it out of the system, right? That was one of the early thoughts that people had about a way to deal with this. And I in my thoughts, that only works if you do get immunity once you've had it. Yeah. So it throws everything out the window, right?
Exactly.
This is really an anomalous thing. It's not. It doesn't act like everything else that they've been used to, which is why there's a pandemic, really, right? Because we don't have anything set up for this. you said you're still unsure. You had the test, and because of all the information floating around, you still don't have you don't have closure for this.
Exactly. I do agree though. Like my symptoms weren't that bad. I had H1N1 back in 2009.
Okay.
And even while I was sick here, I was saying, well, I'd take this over that anytime. Like back then, my fevers were so bad, I was tripping out. So I'll take this any day. The version I had of whatever I had. Of course. And I gotta say, I don't regret staying in the basement because I was sick for 2 weeks. So no matter what you call it, whatever I had,
you were sick.
I'm glad I didn't spread it onto the family. Like when they're home, we're doing the homeschooling thing. I didn't need to be making the whole family sick. So I'm still glad I stayed in the basement. No real regrets there. So
they're good. The family.
Yeah.
Anyone?
No one ever had anything like
common cold. I
stayed locked
minor?
away. My wife was bringing me food to the top of the stairs, kind of thing. I'd send her notes. I'm like, I'm out of cups for tea. I'd message her notes, and some people have joked around like, oh well, that must be nice. She was bringing you everything, but like you don't realize how bad it is when you're stuck in a basement and like you want something, you can't get it. Like, cause I wouldn't go upstairs and go into the fridge or anything like that. So we were trying to make sure I had food, like when they're all sleeping and I'm up late at night.
It's probably similar. Like, you can, at least you had someone there to be able to do it. Right. But like I said, they're sleeping. You can't go get stuff. But then, we should think about those who are isolated, the elderly, people who live alone. Maybe they don't even have a lot of community. If you don't have a neighbor who can go get stuff for you. And then on top of that, maybe you have terrible anxiety or agoraphobia or whatever, about this too. So, there's a lot of people in that situation, which is why, like, they're really talking a lot more about mental health these days, right? And you had a bit of a taste of that being isolated. Yeah,
right? It was very distracting. Like, here I am, my office is down here.
You're trying to work.
I should be able to get all sorts of things done. You're locked away for a month. Why can't you get a bunch of stuff done? But like mentally, it was just distracting. I'm watching news, and like I said, it's conflicting all the time, and it's my symptoms are, I'm trying to match them up with the news as different things come out, and it was very very distracting. And then waiting for these results for so long and having to keep checking in with people. It was to be alone and think you're sick, especially, but even if you're just locked away because you're supposed to be locked away, would be so much worse. If you don't feel safe going to the grocery store, that would be a huge thing. Like, I know people that have felt anxious just because they're grocery shopping.
I have that feeling. I have the feeling, and the last time I went out to get groceries was when I could actually when they it's funny, I went to Sobeys. It was 20. They had 24 hours, right? But it's like the day after I went to the 24 hours one for the last time, it went to regular hours, and that was really a lot of it. All of the measures were to protect staff, right, and to protect everybody, right, which makes sense. But that was the only time I felt like I was safe, and I went at 5 a.m. to get groceries. Because I like to get up early, right? I drove Uber 4 to 7 in the past. Like I like that time, right? Because nobody's around. That's why I like that time, right? But so there were way too many people for that time of the day already in there, and I had to switch aisles to go around people. Nobody was wearing masks at this time. This was a month ago, right? And then when Kayla and Henry came back, because they had been visiting her parents, when they came back. Kayla's in med school. She's less anxiety than I do. So she's like, I'll go get the groceries, right? And I'm a home person. I don't have a lot of need to go outside. So I haven't really been outside very much. And it's probably taken a toll on me. And in terms of looking at Twitter too much too, I need to monitor that a lot more and get the fresh air and just consider my mental health. I'm trying to wrap my head around what's going to make me comfortable going to the grocery store more than Kayla. I don't know if there's anything that will make me more comfortable. If wearing a mask will do it, going at a different time of day. I don't know. I think some people are just more anxious about this kind of thing than others. And some people are more comfortable. So your wife goes and gets the groceries, or you do now, or?
So I had my first outing. I went to Costco within the week here, and I I realized maybe I'm desensitized to it now. It did not bother me at all. I was keeping social distance.
Good in a way.
Yes, I was keeping nice and socially distant, knowing it would bother other people. But like,
yes, of course.
And me just knowing, like, I know this stuff matters. I do believe that we need to keep a distance. We need to keep clean and everything like that. But just this mindset, I know it didn't bother me at all. Like I had to keep telling myself to stay away from people. For their own sanity too, right? Like
because it looks like a normal society. You go outside, everything seems normal. People are walking their dogs, everything's, and then you think, wait a minute, like there's a state of emergency happening right now. My kids can't go to school. Like your kids. Till September. Was this September, or are they saying till the end of 2020?
Well, they're saying September should be fine now. At this point,
like when does that happen? This is not like a regular there's a recession. The whole world is shut down.
Yeah,
and to be able to walk around in it, did it feel a bit surreal to you when you remembered what was happening and you look around? I don't know.
Yeah, it did. I had to keep telling myself that because. If I wasn't sort of mindful of it, I 100% would have just been walking up near people and getting the product I need off the shelf and stuff. But I didn't have that sort of built into me. I really did have to kind of take that step back and just remember it's like keep the 6 feet. Now I realize why they have signs all over the place, because not everybody's kind of doing it out of fear. That they're so worried they're going to get sick. So some people actually do need the signs, because I think I did a good job, but it was a thing where it was a little more of a manual action where I had to like, okay, remember, you're not supposed to get near people. So I don't know if I was just desensitized or what. When you mentioned surreal, what really felt surreal was when I did the drive for the test. I had been locked away for a week already. Just to walk outside, go to the car, like before I even got in the car, I kind of just stopped and like sniffed in the air, and it's just nice to.
You weren't allowed to go outside. Like I can go outside every day, and I choose not. Well, I do. I try to open the door, but some days when the pandemic or not, I don't go outside. Exactly. Right? That's because that's how I am. You can see I'm in the basement now. Well, I guess you are too, right? But this is, I don't know. This is where I feel comfortable most of the time. So some people are vampires and some people are not, right?
Yeah.
So I fall in more of the vampire category, which is helpful, but also it's not good because there's anxiety there too, right? If you have any anxiety. So if you don't need to go outside, fine. But then whenever you do need to go, it's a really hard thing to do, to walk down the street. That's tough. And we don't really, I don't think anyone's prepared for this, to know how they're going to react to this kind of thing.
No, even originally, like you see all these status updates and memes and stuff of, I'm an introvert, I was made for this, and you don't realize just how strange it is. No matter how introverted you are and everything like that. Like I said, how I couldn't even get upstairs. But if you're someone in your house, apartment, whatever, and you can't go outside, like it still matters. No matter how introverted you are, you think you stay at home all the time. It's like
the option is not there anymore.
Yeah, exactly. When you want to, if you're someone that wants to go to the grocery store every day, like I know people that do that. They just want to buy that day's meal. I think they're terribly inefficient, but do that.
That's another podcast episode.
Yeah. But yeah, when some of the stuff's just taken away from you, or you're someone that eats at a restaurant more than you go to the grocery store, like that's a huge shock. You may literally not know how to cook anything.
That is a lot of people right now, and they're figuring stuff out, right? They're maybe cooking basics. Maybe a lot of people are learning how to bake bread, or like that seems to be what's happening. I don't know. What was the one thing? You take sports away, and suddenly guys are baking sourdough, right? Because there's not a lot of, like, I forget, because I'm working and you're working as well, that a lot of people are not working, and they're at home, they're on EI, they're on the CERB, whatever it is, they don't have anything to do.
Yeah.
You and it doesn't sound like you're bored.
Life's pretty normal. Like I've said it before online, like if to be like a single mother working at a restaurant would be an amazing shock right now. Like
Yes,
you lose
yes.
your job, you've got a kid at home. Like I couldn't even
There's
imagine.
no
I can't.
replacement.
I don't have enough empathy to fully put myself in their shoes. I can't imagine being in that situation. It's just it's something I really can't speak to because it's just that different. Like for us, things are pretty normal.
You were set up for a pandemic. Like on top of that, like even if you like in your situation, and you can decide to reveal however much you want here, but like if you were to lose your corporate job, you might still be okay.
Yeah, I'd probably be fine.
Right, because you have other sources of income too.
Yeah, the way I've always put it is I'm basically doing 2 full-time jobs, which has allowed my wife to stay home. So it's still kind of a dual income relationship that we make work together kind of thing. But my wife never had to go home, or sorry, my wife never had to go to work after we had our first kid. So that's what my business has allowed. And then it's still nice to still have that second job, just like any other sort of family situation. If you dual income's pretty common.
You're just doing both of them.
Yeah, exactly. I'm doing both because I can, and she's able to give the kids more time and stuff like that.
And of course, we talked about this in detail when you were on the show to tell your story. So people just go back and search for Tom Drake in the search bar in the show, and you'll find the whole hour plus. I'm sure we did
probably was
on that and how that happened. So I mean, in terms of talking about how this has affected your personal finances, probably not that much. But do you have any examples of what's been affected for you or for others, or just in general?
Yeah, I think on the personal finance thing, obviously the biggest thing for if you still have your job and everything like that, those are much bigger issues. But if you're kind of carrying on like normal, investing is kind of an interesting issue right now. If you have a lot invested, you're watching these numbers drop at a point. They're coming back up now, but and if you're looking to invest, it's like, well, where do you get in there? So I'm not a fan of timing the market. I can sometimes be a fan of trying to buy low, though. when something looks,
you've had a couple of episodes lately on your show, right? In the Maple Money podcast.
Yeah, we that was interesting too. I blogging and podcasting. I built up this machine where it's like we're going to be 2 to 4 weeks ahead. Everything's going to be great, and then this happened. So I have a team of help, thankfully, with the podcast, and we really had to mess with some scheduling to get some of these episodes in. But like investing is a big thing, or a big opportunity right now. I've said before on my podcast, I sort of fell into it by accident in 2009. I happened to sell a good chunk of investments before buying my first house in 2008. I sold. Okay. And so now I'm back to a point of, okay, well, now I need to reinvest, including paying back a home buyer's plan. And so I was investing in 2009 into 2010, and it wasn't some guru timing thing. I just happened to accidentally sell at the right time, and
you got everything at bargain basement prices.
And so I've personally seen the benefit of just being able to like get some of these dividend stocks when you can get them at low prices, because then the dividend is more as a percentage. Assuming dividends never change with certain companies and stuff. If they pay out 20 cents or whatever, it's like that might be maybe that used to be 3% and now it's a 6% dividend every year. So this is much better numbers than a savings account.
Sure. Yeah.
Now the caution is it's easy to get burned with market timing. It went down really fast and now it's coming back up, but that doesn't mean it's not going to go down again. So people can't look at it like, okay, Tom says this is the day to buy because it's going to keep going up. I don't know, just like nobody knows. I have a feeling that at the very least this is going to drag on for a while, and not necessarily the virus, just the economy at this point.
Yeah, of course, a recovery if there's such a thing.
Yeah, like if Canada and the U.S. suddenly said on Monday, okay, everything's open. It's not, though, because like not everybody's just going to rush out to the restaurants that day, and some of those restaurants aren't going to open ever. So there's things like this in the economy.
Yeah,
like
they're not everyone's not gonna get their job like immediately the day that it opens.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
it's going to be gradual, if anything,
and maybe much more restrained. Because
much more.
And again, going back to 2009, it was very similar. Like you're gonna cut staff, and if you can operate with less staff going forward, you're gonna do it. Because you just need to control those costs. Even with the government help right now and everything, you still have to keep your business running a certain way. You have to not be losing money. So if you had 6 staff and you cut it down to 4, even when everything opens, maybe that's still what you're doing, because you're just not going to rush to go back to where you were. Those are slow builds where it's like, oh, economy's doing well, my business is doing well, we're going to keep building slowly over years, and then something happens like this, and then you got to kind of slowly rebuild again. So I don't see it going back to normal.
We don't know what's going to happen. That's the bottom line, right? So the same thing with investing. Like if you were thinking of taking some extra money, if you have some, and investing it now because, oh, this is the bargain basement, that's not really cut and dry, like the answer there, right?
Yeah.
So like
only looking back,
have a method.
Yeah.
Well, looking back. Sorry, what
only looking back will you ever know, but that isn't helpful.
Yeah.
Like so maybe a couple weeks ago was the lowest, and we're on our way up. Maybe not. Maybe that was a little dip and it's going to get worse. We don't really know. What we do know, at least, is that it's lower than it was, stock price and everything, or lower than they were a month ago, 2 months ago. And if you're willing to invest and you can handle watching your stocks go down in price, then
at least for a little bit more.
Yeah, long run, you'd be okay. Like it's good to know that you're invested for a long time. This isn't somewhere where you put money in and, well, I'm going to double my money in the year because it's going to go back up. It's hard to make that call.
Well, because as we've discussed before, anything investing with the point of getting short-term returns because you think you can time the market is basically gambling, right? And if you have money to do that, then hey, this could be the time for you to just do some speculation, but don't ever use money that you can't afford to lose when you do that, right?
Yeah.
But as you just said, you put some money in now, maybe it keeps going down a little bit more for another year or even 2, and then in 20 years it's all back up and you got it at one of the relatively low prices, and that's kind of what you're saying. This is a possible opportunity for that.
Yeah, right? This is the season of investing where I do like dividend stocks, because then you can look at it where you're getting that 6% dividend every year. In a way, you don't need to care as much about what the price is on paper. Like if the stock drops, you're still getting a certain dollar amount that you're expecting. If the stock drops and it's still a good stock, technically you could buy more, but it's if it's a company that's paid out their dividends for like 100 years, you can kind of feel pretty confident that dividend's going to continue. You can never feel 100% confident because any company could stop their dividend at any time.
That's it, right?
There is risk to this.
There's always risk to all of this. I always like the example for the Warren Buffett American Express example that he did back in the day, in that there was some kind of scandal, I think, with American Express, and it was all in the news, and the stock price was going down. And so Warren Buffett owned a lot of American Express stock at the time, and he just goes into a restaurant and says, "Are you still accepting American Express?" And they said yes. And he's like, "Oh, well, they're probably going to be fine then, right? They're probably going to be able to withstand this blip or whatever it is. There's no reason to rush out and sell all of that."
Yeah.
You have to look, if you do have individual company investments or anything like that, and you're thinking about it, just, keep that kind of thing in mind. Is this like, because the only way to lock in these losses is to sell everything right now.
Yeah,
right?
That's the one.
Otherwise,
thing
they're not losses. Yeah, right. They're not losses. It's just a dip when this kind of thing happens, right?
Yeah. There's only 2 times it matters: is when you're buying and when you're selling. So, 100%. That's one thing I feel quite sure about right now. Is a terrible time to sell. Assuming you bought this even 2 months ago, say you invested, like you do not want to sell when it's down, because you're right. You've locked in the loss, and then you're no longer there for when it goes back up.
And that just leads us to sort of one of the main personal finance tenets that you never invest any money that you need in the next 5-10 years. Well, what's your amount? Like you keep it in cash or something that is liquid and not susceptible to market changes.
Yeah. So I barely even look at it as years. Almost everything I invest, I almost consider retirement. Whether it's whether it's in an RSP, TFSA, or non-registered outside of both of those, I don't even look at it, because it's literally just, it's money I'm investing, and that's it. It's not I need this money in 5 years, because I don't have any plans for 5 years from now. I don't.
Yeah, I guess you don't, but some people do, right? They would have saving for a down payment for a house or something like that, right? So in that case,
yeah, that's a great point. If you do have a plan for something, then chances are it's within a time frame where you don't want to use the stock market at all. If it's 5 years, 10 years even, because this can happen. You could save up that $50,000 and then watch it become like $25,000 in a week. So it's not a good place for any kind of immediate term.
And then that 25,000 will eventually grow back up, but not in the time that you need it to. And that's really what it comes down to, right? When people are afraid, like, oh, what if everything crashes? Well, just assume that it's gonna crash. Yeah. It will.
Well, and this is what right? people do with their retirement savings. As you get closer to retirement, you should be taking money out of the stock market and putting it into things like bonds. Where you're just kind of locking that in. You don't make a lot of money on bonds, but you don't lose it either. So in a way, similar to a savings account. Like, it's just that you're taking that money out of the stock market, you're putting it somewhere safer, and not all of it. Like, say you're heading towards retirement, you take 20% out and put that in bonds, just so that you have some money there for the immediate time, whether that's 5 years, 10 years. That's the money you pull out, and then you leave the rest in the stock market. So when these kind of drops happen, you just let the rest of that keep riding until it's back to a better place, and then it's time to take some more money out and put it in bonds. So, just doing that. This whole idea of like reallocating a portfolio is really assuming that things are going to get bad at some point. You're pulling money out.
Yeah,
get in.
That's really the best policies. I mean, nobody knew that this was coming, but people had been saying that correction of some kind was coming. This is the bad one, but that's why we need to be aware of these things, and you just can't leave something in the same allocation as you get older. That's why personal finance advice is personal, right? As you go, it's not only personal for the person in terms of what your risk tolerance is. It's as you get older, your risk tolerance changes. You personally might have the same risk tolerance, but you have to look at your situation too. Mm-hmm. And, of course, all of this applies to people who have investments already, and everybody else is in survival mode. So we're talking about that, of course, and we're talking about people who actually are affected by the market changes. But everybody's in a different situation right now, as we were saying on the Dear Ruby show. Like, everybody's in the same situation, but also very different. We're all affected by this pandemic, but in different ways, right? So that's why I want to go around and talk to different people around the world, because, it just, you want to find someone who you can relate to, right? Yeah, a lot of people are concerned about the markets right now, for sure, right? And then other people are just concerned about how they're going to get groceries or be able to leave the house. So let's talk about all this stuff, right? So yeah, that's pretty good for today, Tom. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about, in terms of personal finance or anything like that?
The only thing I'm looking at is kind of this, and we've touched on it a bit, but this idea that, like, we may never have sort of back to normal. Like, I kind of like the term new normal.
New normal,
like we're already looking at this. Like, one of our kids is doing pretty well with homeschooling. If they both were, then we'd be like, okay, well, maybe we should do something different.
Good point.
And like I said, like all these businesses aren't necessarily going to come back just because a politician says it's time. So it just across the board, I don't know what normal looks like anymore. And I don't mean to make that sound negative, but like
no, but it's good to talk about.
Yeah, you look at something like 9/11. When this happened, it changed how we get through an airport. You can't just run up to your gate anymore. You have to go through security and take your shoes off and all
Absolutely.
that. And
I wouldn't run in an airport at all. Just if I was giving advice, just take your time. Right?
You've never booked gates as tight as I have, then. But like just this idea, like things could change. Like maybe we don't shake hands anymore. Maybe wearing masks is more common, like it is in other parts of the world. I always thought that seemed kind of different and odd to me, but like it's thing.
It's going to be more normal now.
Yeah, exactly. They're already talking about how this is like almost a fashion statement to wear a mask. So yeah, things could change somehow, and it doesn't make it better or worse, but it just may not go back to what it looked like at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, and we need just to slowly kind of wrap our heads around that. If you're just sitting there waiting for things to go back to the normal that they were, I don't know. It might just, that might be a bit of a fruitless thing. They're going to go back to something, but it's unlikely, especially right away, going to be back to the normal. So just whatever you can do to adapt to that. Yeah, if working from home is working for you, schooling from home, that kind of thing, like you already have an ability to plan. You know that it's going to be for a little while, so you could have a little testing it out, right? So yeah, I think we just keep talking about this stuff and the possibilities and keeping up with the news and talking to people. I know you're doing a weekly games games nights online, right?
Yeah,
got to keep the community up, all right? And we have to adapt that way too, right? How can we do this online? How can we do that online? Because even if you're allowed to go, it's not going to be the same. Concerts are going to be online, things like that, right? Sporting events, right? It could be an empty arena and you're paying $5 to watch it, right? That seems more likely right now anyway than a lot of the other things. But yeah, that is good to have you on the show, Tom.
Thanks for having me on.
You take care, okay? And let's keep in touch. I think I might join one of the games nights at some point if you keep them going.
I'll keep them going for now, so look forward to it.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Tom.
Thanks.